Everyone around her said it was just a terrible accident, that her 8-year-old daughter, Lily, fell down the stairs and died instantly. The police closed the case. The doctor signed the death certificate, and the neighbors mourned, but quickly moved on. But Sarah, Lily's mother, couldn't. Deep inside, something kept screaming that this wasn't just an accident. Her daughter had been terrified of something in the house for days before her death, something she couldn't explain, something lurking in the shadows. As the day of the funeral approached, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that Lily was trying to communicate, even in death. Desperate and grieving, she made a decision no mother should ever have to make. The night before the burial, under the cover of darkness and against all reason, Sarah carefully placed a tiny, hidden camera inside her daughter's coffin, just beneath the fabric, pointing toward Lily's peaceful face. She thought maybe she'd find peace. Maybe she'd confirm she was just being paranoid. But when she turned on the camera feed that night, what she saw made her heart stop. And from that moment, she knew her daughter's soul wasn't resting, and something evil had followed her home. Sarah had always been a protective mother, maybe even overprotective, but when it came to her daughter Lily, nothing ever felt like enough. At just 8 years old, Lily was bright, kind, and full of life. Until, slowly, she began to change. It started with nightmares. Then came the whispering. Lily would wake up crying, trembling, insisting that something was watching her from the corner of her room. Sarah thought it was just a phase, part of childhood imagination. But the fear in Lily's eyes was too real, too raw. Lily stopped playing with her toys. She stopped smiling. She began sleeping with the lights on and refused to be alone, even for a minute. She kept saying, "He's in the walls, Mommy. He wants me to come with him." Then one rainy afternoon, everything ended. The official report said Lily fell down the stairs while Sarah was in the kitchen. But how could a child so careful, so scared of the dark hallway, suddenly run and fall so violently? Her neck was broken instantly, or so they claimed. But when Sarah saw her daughter's body in the morgue, eyes slightly open, fingernails bloodied as if she tried to claw at something before she died, she knew something wasn't right. They said it was a tragic accident. Sarah believed it was something else, something far worse, something still inside their home. The night after the funeral home took Lily's body, the house grew unbearably silent. Too silent. Sarah wandered from room to room, clutching her daughter's favorite stuffed rabbit, hoping for comfort. But what she felt instead was a heavy, suffocating presence. That's when the sounds began. At first, it was soft, like breathing, coming from Lily's bedroom. Then came the faint whispers, barely audible, but there, as if someone or something was speaking just beyond the walls. Every time Sarah leaned closer to listen, the voice stopped, but she could feel it, like cold breath on the back of her neck. Lily's toys began to shift places overnight. Her closet door creaked open by itself at exactly 3:07 a.m. every single night. The old baby monitor, long unplugged, lit up on its own and played static laced with distant, childlike giggling. Sarah even swore she heard Lily's music box play in the dead of night, its lullaby distorted, slowed down, echoing eerily through the empty hallway. One night, Sarah entered Lily's room and found the words, "He's not gone," scratched into the wall above the bed, in tiny, trembling handwriting that wasn't there before. She wasn't just mourning a daughter anymore. She was beginning to believe. Lily had never left. Sarah tried to convince herself it was all in her head, grief playing cruel tricks. But the more she tried to move on, the more the house pushed back. She revisited the coroner's report over and over, and every time, something new began to gnaw at her. Lily's fall had supposedly caused a clean, singular injury. But then why were there bruises on her upper arms, perfectly shaped like fingers, as if someone had grabbed her violently? She asked the doctors. They said it was from the fall. She asked the police. They said there was no sign of forced entry, no evidence of foul play. Case closed. But Sarah remembered something else. A week before Lily's death, she had drawn a picture, one she hid in her dresser. It showed a tall, dark figure with no face standing beside her bed. In the corner of the drawing, a little stick figure of Lily was scribbled in red, with the words, "He watches me when you sleep," scrawled underneath. And then there was the babysitter. When Sarah called her to ask if she had ever noticed anything strange, there was silence on the other end. Then the girl finally said, trembling, "I didn't want to scare you, but Lily used to talk to someone in the mirror every night. She called him the quiet man." Sarah's heart sank. There were too many questions, too many things that didn't add up, and something told her the real answers were buried, literally, with her daughter. That's when she knew. She had to see for herself what was really happening inside that coffin. The night before the burial, while the world around her slept, Sarah made a decision that no grieving mother should ever have to make. She couldn't silence the voice in her head. Something's wrong. Something's still with her. Desperate, trembling, and barely holding herself together, she took out a tiny pinhole camera she had bought months ago for home security, never used. It was small enough to be hidden, but powerful enough to stream a live feed directly to her laptop. She waited until everyone left the funeral home. In the dim, flickering lights of the viewing room, she approached Lily's coffin one last time. Her daughter lay there, peaceful. Too peaceful. Her lips slightly parted, her skin pale like porcelain. Sarah reached inside the soft satin lining and, with shaking hands, carefully secured the hidden camera just above Lily's head, embedding it where no one would notice. The lens pointed straight at her daughter's face. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "I'm so sorry, baby. I just need to know the truth." That night, back at home, Sarah sat alone in the dark with her laptop open, camera feed connected. She stared at the still image of the coffin, surrounded by silence. The first few hours passed with nothing but darkness and muffled ambient noise. But then, just after midnight, the coffin moved. The digital clock on Sarah's desk struck 12:03 a.m. when the first anomaly appeared. She had nearly dozed off, the soft hum of the laptop the only sound in the room, when suddenly the feed twitched, just a subtle flicker. Her eyes snapped open. On the screen, the coffin still appeared sealed shut, but something was different. The darkness inside felt thicker, almost as if the shadows were breathing. Then came the sound, a soft, irregular scratching, barely audible at first, like fingernails dragging across wood. Sarah leaned closer, her heart hammering. She turned up the volume. The sound grew louder, more frantic. It was coming from inside the coffin. Her breath caught in her throat. The camera feed began to crackle. Static lines danced across the screen, warping Lily's face, still, pale, and unmoving, until, for just a second, her eyes twitched. Sarah froze. Then, they opened, wide, unblinking. Sarah let out a gasp, covering her mouth. It wasn't natural. The way they opened, slowly, as if something inside was forcing them open. Her daughter's pupils were dilated. Her gaze was cold, empty, and somehow staring straight into the lens. And then, the voice. A low whisper echoed through the speakers. "Mom, it's so dark down here. Why did you leave me?" Sarah recoiled from the laptop in terror, knocking over a lamp. The feed glitched violently. The camera shook, as if the coffin itself was trembling. The scratching grew louder. The satin lining rippled, moved, as if something else was trying to crawl up from beneath her daughter's body. And then, a second voice. Deeper, harsher. "She's not yours anymore." Suddenly, the image blurred and twisted. A shadow appeared next to Lily's face. Long, unnatural fingers pressed against the inside of the coffin lid from within. The sound of wood creaking filled the room. And then the lid began to open. Only an inch, but enough. Enough to see that Lily wasn't alone. The screen went black. For a few endless seconds, the screen stayed black. Sarah stared at her laptop in frozen silence, her trembling fingers hovering above the keyboard, unsure whether to refresh the feed or run. Then, suddenly, the image snapped back. But the scene had changed. The coffin was no longer still. The lid was open, just a crack, not pushed from the outside, from the inside. The camera's night vision activated, bathing the inside of the coffin in a ghostly green glow. Sarah's breath hitched. Lily's eyes were still open, wider now, glazed and lifeless. But her lips were moving, slowly, silently, as if whispering something over and over. Sarah turned the volume up, straining to hear until the words finally became clear. He's here. He's here. He's here. Then, from behind Lily's head, something shifted. At first, it was just a dark mass. But as it moved into the frame, the shape became clearer. An unnaturally long hand, thin, skeletal, with yellowed, claw-like fingernails, reaching out from the lower part of the coffin, stroking Lily's hair. Sarah screamed, backing away from the screen, but she couldn't look away. The hand slowly slid up the side of the coffin, pulling with it a face, but it wasn't human. It had sunken sockets where eyes should have been, a mouth that stretched too wide, and skin that looked rotted, like it had been buried for centuries. The thing leaned in close to Lily's ear. The camera mic picked up a deep, guttural whisper. Your mother is watching, little one. Let's say hello. Lily's head turned, stiffly, like a puppet being forced, and faced the camera directly. Her mouth opened too wide, unnaturally, and from it came a distorted, dual voice. She let me in. The coffin lid slammed shut. The feed cut out instantly. The screen went completely dark. But the whisper, that whisper continued, now in Sarah's room, right behind her. The room around Sarah turned ice cold. She sat paralyzed, staring at her dark laptop screen. The final image of Lily's wide, unnatural stare burned into her mind. Her ears rang with silence until the whisper behind her came again. She let me in. Sarah spun around. Nothing. Just the dark corners of her bedroom, where the shadows now felt deeper, heavier, watching. Hands shaking, she slammed the laptop shut. But her curiosity, her fear, demanded answers. After what felt like hours, she reopened the feed, hoping the signal had returned. And this time, it had. But something had changed. The camera was no longer fixed on Lily's face. The angle had shifted, as if someone, or something, had turned the device around. Now it pointed into the lower half of the coffin. And that's when Sarah saw it. Another body. At first glance, it looked like a mass of tangled limbs, draped in a black, tattered cloth. But as the night vision adjusted, it became horrifyingly clear. Lily wasn't alone. Curled up in the corner of the coffin, almost melded into the shadows, was a second figure. Its back hunched, skin pale and cracked like dried earth. It breathed slowly, rhythmically, almost as if it had been sleeping, waiting. Then it moved. The creature slowly lifted its head, revealing a face without features. No eyes, no nose, just a gaping, toothless mouth that opened and closed like it was trying to remember how to speak. From its throat came a low, groaning moan, like the sound of the earth itself opening up. Lily's voice suddenly echoed from the speakers, clearer than before. He's not dead. He was buried before me. He's been waiting for someone small enough to fit. The creature turned, facing the camera directly. Then it did something impossible. It smiled, and slowly, its long, spidery fingers reached out, not toward Lily, but toward the lens, toward Sarah. Then the coffin lid began to shut again. Only this time, it didn't close all the way. It stopped just enough to show the thing hadn't gone back to sleep. It was still watching, still smiling, still sharing the coffin. By morning, Sarah was a wreck, exhausted, eyes red from tears, her mind spiraling between grief and terror. She tried to tell herself it was all some kind of sick malfunction, a glitch, hallucination from days of sleepless sorrow. But then her phone buzzed. One new voicemail, unknown number. Confused, she pressed play. At first, there was nothing but static. Then came the faint sound of breathing, labored, unnatural. And then, Lily's voice. Mommy, help me. I'm cold. He says I can't leave yet. Sarah dropped the phone. Her heart raced. The voice was distorted, like it was being pulled from underwater, slow, echoing, broken. But it was her daughter. There was no mistaking it. She picked the phone up again and listened to the message from the beginning, hands trembling. After Lily's plea, another voice cut in, low, guttural, like gravel scraping against bone. It spoke just one word. Soon. Then the message ended with a high-pitched screech that sent pain through Sarah's ears. Her phone screen flickered, and for a split second, the wallpaper image, once a photo of her and Lily, glitched, replaced by a blurry frame from the coffin feed. Lily's face in the shadows. With that second face, the thing, right behind her, grinning. Sarah stared at the phone in horror. This wasn't just some supernatural occurrence. Something was using technology to reach her, to warn her, or to taunt her. And whatever was buried with Lily, it was no longer content to stay underground. Sarah couldn't escape the feeling that the answers were right in front of her. The whispers in the house had grown louder, more insistent. The presence lurking in the shadows had become undeniable. She felt watched in every corner of her home, as if something was waiting for her to uncover the truth. That night, after hearing a loud crash in the hallway, she ventured down the stairs to investigate. The sound had come from beneath the floorboards, just outside the basement door. Her heart pounded as she approached, trembling with dread. The basement had always been locked, the one room in the house Sarah had kept sealed after Lily's death. She had no reason to go down there, or so she thought. But tonight, something pulled her toward it. A strange sensation crawled under her skin, as if the house was whispering her name. She found a loose panel in the wall, hidden behind a stack of old boxes. Her hands shook as she pried it open. Behind it, an old, musty room lay hidden in darkness. Dust filled the air as she stepped inside, barely able to see through the thick blackness. But then she noticed something that made her blood run cold. There, in the center of the room, was a large, cracked mirror. Its surface was covered in thick layers of grime, but what unsettled Sarah the most was the faint, childish drawings etched around its edges, Lily's drawings. She reached for the mirror, her breath quickening. As her fingers brushed the glass, she recoiled, feeling an ice-cold chill. The reflection seemed off, distorted. In the murky surface, she could just make out a figure, tall and gaunt, standing behind her. Before she could turn around, the mirror shifted. The face in the glass smiled, a twisted, grotesque grin, impossibly wide. It wasn't hers. It wasn't Lily's. It was the same featureless, decaying face from the coffin. She's mine now, Sarah. The voice whispered, echoing in her ears, though the figure in the mirror's mouth didn't move. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the door slammed shut behind her. Trapped in the dark, Sarah's breath quickened as the sound of footsteps, heavy, dragging, grew closer from behind her. The room felt alive, and something was coming for her. The door slammed shut with a deafening thud, the sudden sound sending Sarah's heart into a panic. She spun around, her breath shallow, eyes frantically searching the dark room. The air felt thick, suffocating, as if the house itself was holding her captive. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Each drag across the floor sounded like a death knell. She turned in every direction, desperately looking for an escape, but there was none. The room felt smaller, as if the walls were closing in around her. And then a voice, a deep, guttural whisper, rose from the shadows, chilling her to the bone. You think she's gone, but she's not. She's never really gone. The words cut through the air like a blade. Her mind raced, memories flooding back. The way Lily had spoken about something in the house before her death, the way she had spoken of him, the quiet man who watched from the shadows. Suddenly, the mirror shifted again, this time clearer than ever. The surface rippled like water disturbed by an unseen hand. But this time, the figure wasn't just a reflection. It was inside the room, moving in the mirror as though the glass had become a window into something else. The thing, it stepped forward, reaching out, its long fingers pressing against the glass. The same sickening smile spread across its face, and Sarah could hear its voice again, louder, more insistent. She's mine, Sarah. And now, so are you. Her body trembled as she backed away, but the door wouldn't open. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The creature in the mirror moved toward her, its body distorting, stretching out like a nightmare come to life. The glass was no longer a barrier, it was becoming a doorway. And then, the final blow hit her. The truth. The mirror wasn't just reflecting what was inside the room. It had always been showing what was already here, beneath the house, beneath the walls, beneath the floorboards. The thing that had taken Lily, the thing that had haunted her every step, had never left. Sarah's eyes widened in horror as she pieced it all together. The mirror, the shadows, the whispers. It wasn't Lily's spirit trapped in the house. It was the thing that killed her. It was alive, and it was using Lily's body, her soul, as a gateway. She stumbled back, her legs weak, as the truth of the house settled in her mind. The house had always been built over something ancient, something dark and hungry. And it wasn't just calling Lily. It had been calling to Sarah from the very first night. With one final, deafening crash, the mirror shattered, splintering into countless jagged pieces. In the fragments, Sarah could see a reflection of herself. And behind her, the thing, its long, bony arms stretching out from the darkness, ready to pull her into the void. And just as her fingers touched the glass, as the thing's claws wrapped around her throat, Sarah realized the worst truth of all. She was never meant to escape. If you were disturbed by what you just saw, don't keep it to yourself. The truth is out there, hidden in the shadows of this world, and it's not alone. But before you leave, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this story. You never know who might need to hear it, or who might want to know the truth. Beware, because some things aren't meant to be uncovered. Stay safe, and remember, there are some things you can never escape.